Hello friends, we're back here on the workbench with the 1960s Silvertone Twin 12. And you guys saw in part one, we did some work, replaced the cathode bypass caps and the bias capacitor here, and just kind of reviewed the amplifier in total. And yeah, it is a crazy amp, and it's going to get crazier as we go on, I'm sure. But we got a bunch of parts in, talked to the owner, and we are replacing all of the major electrolytics in it, which includes these 4 100 microfarad capacitors. We've got new mod replacements here, which should be good. Now, the main goal for tonight is just to replace those 4. As I showed in the first part of this series, I'll zoom in here, the leads are completely looped around every single terminal eyelet here, and it just makes it extremely difficult to remove anything, especially here because it's mounted on this weird kind of like, I don't even know what it's called. It's called something like masonite or something, but it basically looks like cardboard. This center divider where all the terminal strips are riveted to just makes it very weak. So if I try and pull on a lead to try and get it, undone here, because they're very tightly wrapped around in a circle, there's a potential there is a potential of damaging or ruining this, which is obviously not ideal. So we're gonna have to take this we're going to approach it a bit differently. And I talked to the owner, and he he knows who I am. He's seen my videos, and he understands that my tendency is to want to kind of redo things and try and make them as good as I can. And he told me, Tanner, don't worry about it. I understand what this amp is. It is, this obviously we talked about in part one. These are not very valuable amps. They're cool, but they're not that valuable. And yeah, he just wants it to work, but he doesn't care about it being beautiful and all that sort of stuff. He said, just go for it, get it running, and you're good to go. So we will take that to heart, and we will do what needs to be done without hopefully overthinking it too much. Now, when it comes to removing some of these leads here, we might have a bit more luck because this lead is thicker on the capacitors, so it's more easy to identify which of the 5 here, for example, it is to remove. But yeah, we're going to try and churn and burn a little bit on this. So we're going to replace those capacitors. We also got discrete caps to replace the caps in the can. Goodness gracious, guys. Wow, I'm tired. Yeah, the can cap. So we're going to have discrete caps to replace the can cap. And then from there, I'm trying to think of what else we had. Oh, and a bunch of jacks. So we'll be replacing the jack here and doing this better. And then the 4 input jacks will also be replaced with shunting style. And we'll probably we will wire it up, like Fender does with a high and low input, since both inputs are identical in the 2 channels. So with that, we got the soldering iron heating up. So we'll jump right to the action. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut the lead here off the cap. We're going to remember the negative is going here. So just cut that there, and then this one. There we go. There's the first replacement cap. Now typically the modern caps are a lot smaller. You'll notice not that much smaller, but this is rated higher. So this is 200 volt versus 350 volt. So make sure this is oriented correctly. Put that off to the side. And the lead went right here. So that's where we will be going with. Now let's try and remove the solder here and see if we can pull that lead out. It actually might. There's actually a strong chance, now that I'm looking at it a bit deeper, that this right here, this connection, is actually from that capacitor lead, that original lead. I think they looped it around and then looped it into this one, which again, these amps were not made to be serviced. That's very clear. Look at that. If you're doing that, it is so much more difficult to service. So just kind of is what it is, but it's worth reiterating. And it is, I can see it, it is the lead. So we're just going to try and remove some of the solder here, give us a little bit of flexibility. So I think what we'll do is just take the existing one, bend it even more, and we'll keep it as the bridge wire here. And then we got this lead over here. Let's see if we can get a little movement on that. Yeah, it's just so tightly wrapped, I can't even get it to move or anything without moving this entire piece. Perfect. So that shores up some room for the new leads here. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and solder this in. And then we will trim the leads. All right, there you go. That's one down. Now let's go and do the next one. Take off our little heat sink there for the diode. And yes, we are leaving the diodes. I know they're hideous. I know all of that, but we're doing kind of the bare minimum to get this working as instructed. Now, obviously, these two are very close together, these leads, but they are meant to be in series, as it seems, because obviously there's a jumper wire, and this one is going here. There's a jumper wire, so actually the touch here doesn't make any difference, so I'm not worried about that. Let's go ahead and solder that in. Perfect. So those two are now replaced, and we can move on to the other two. And look at me, I'm not even listening to my own advice and statement at the beginning of trying to just leave things. I'm trying to freaking straighten out these crooked leads. Well, I am who I am. For better or worse, right? All right, let's go ahead and move on to these two. Boy, this side is rough. You guys can't see it, and I'm not going to bother trying to show it on camera, but obviously this capacitor was changed. The other three were the original red electrolytics here. And this one was actually installed because you could see there's just so much going on here. Instead of trying to fit it here, they installed the lead off of this here into this little part. And then there's solder, like a teardrop of solder hanging off of that lead because, yeah, I just didn't do a very good job there. And then this one, you can see, has the solder basically barely there. I can see right through it. You probably can't see on the camera, but from this angle, this corner is not soldered. And yeah, the solder joint looks quite cold as well. So pretty rough. Yeah, so instead of, like, normally what this one should be going here, and then those are connected like that, just like we had here, where they kind of, this one goes here and this one goes here and they're bridged. Instead of doing that, maybe they tried to do that because it looks like they messed with the solder here and they ended up going here, which is a thing. So fun stuff. And then just a giant pool of solder here. So I'll have to get through that here. Try and get the desolder braid here to get off some of this. There we go. All right, we've got that one roughed in. We're going to go ahead and add solder now to this side, but not this side yet because we have to remove this connection, which is here. And if I add solder here, it's going to get that flowing. And then if I, yeah, you guys get what I'm saying here. So we're just going to hold it on this side just so it stays in place. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and remove this capacitor. Here's what I was talking about before. So we removed this connection here. You can see it's got a giant blob of solder there. They put it right there for no reason. So we will now make this connection here, and then we'll fix this and get rid of that. So first things first, we'll just kind of bend this over a little bit more. Solid mechanical connection. Go ahead and cut it, and let's see if we can remove this fairly easily or not, since it's not a factory install, meaning it's likely not looped around like crazy. Let's get the heatsink back on there. For the diode. And the last one here. Forgot, we got to clean this up. Let's do that real quick. Awesome, that looks very good, all things considered. Let's go ahead and clip the extra leads. And just like that, folks, we've got those main caps replaced. Beautiful. Pretty happy with that overall. And now we can go ahead and move on. All right, now we're moving on to the can cap down here. And this is going to be fairly complicated to replace. We're not replacing the can cap itself with another can cap because it is riveted on and there's just really no way to get in there. It would be a massive hassle to get all of that undone. So I figured we would do discrete components, which is usually fine. And there's quite a lot of room in here actually, but the areas we have to connect to, and there's quite a lot of connections, there's just not really a good way to get anything over here. So I'm trying to figure out the best way. What I did is I installed, I guess temporarily, and we'll determine if I want to do this actually or not, this vertical terminal strip here that's got 3 independent sections. It's kind of hard to tell from the angle you guys have. Maybe if I bend it a little bit, you can see it, but it's kind of like a telephone pole kind of looking thing. And it is completely clearing this plane here, so we have to worry about that. I'm just trying to mock it up. So basically we've got a 20, a 10, and a 5 microfarad, 450 volt or so cap in the can cap. So 3 different discrete caps here. And I've got 2 8 microfarad, 475 volts, and 1 20 microfarad, 500 volt to replace those 3. And I've got the 2 kind of here. Now there's a ground connection right there that's fairly easy to get to. There are a couple other ground connections that are riveted on that are also available, but I'd rather go to a ground connection that is actually something I can tighten and ensure is good to go. So I'm looking at this one right here, and it's kind of unfortunate because below it, there's a lot of parts. So, you know, if I have to get into any of those, or the future tech has to get into any of those, it's a bit of a pain. There is wiggle room, but that is something I'm acknowledging here. And then the third one, I'm wondering if I just go like this, because it's just small enough to be able to get away with this and ground it here and to this section right here, which is already being used as a ground somewhere, and just having it be kind of like this so that we don't have a third one going over here. And I'm not sure if I could really stack on top of here, on top of these two, just because the plane of this has got to be able to be completely flat here. And there's really nothing this way. You know, there's a kind of the center non-terminal on these terminal strips here, like this one, but it's very close. And at that point, might as well go to something that is a bit easier to connect to, like an actual eyelet, like what we have right here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't love it, but I don't really see a better solution, to be honest. I can't get the leads to reach all over here, and you know, I'm basically spanning the entire thing anyways, which is not really solving the issue of this, which is just kind of being on top of stuff. But the caps are rated for 105 degree Celsius plus. So these are very good caps, and you know, it's not going to get too hot in this area. You know, nothing abnormal that all these other caps aren't already seeing. It's more just that it's kind of blocking the area a little bit. So again, like I said at the start of this video, perfection versus getting it functioning and good enough to work, good enough for rock and roll, if you will. I think we're probably gonna have to move forward with this, and I think we will do something along that for this third one as a placement. Something like that to go to there, but then again, I have 2 more to go. So we have to do something like this. I'm not sure if that would reach or not. Probably just barely reach. We're not really accomplishing much more there because we're still covering all this stuff here. So it's either essentially we cover this area right here, which is kind of a dead zone. There's some wires there, but not a lot of resistors in this area. Or we cover this area, which to me looks like there's more going on here. So I'm still leaning towards my original plan, 20 microfarad, 8 microfarad, 8 microfarad, and then we'll just pull all these leads up to reach here. And if they can't reach, then we'll have to make new connections. But I think they'll reach. It'll be pretty close on this back one right here, but overall, we'll get there. But that's gonna be for a different day. So we'll stop here, and then I will probably continue on in this video, but just a different day for me. So, all right, let's get to it. And we're back. So I've gone ahead and first and foremost checked all of the resistors in the amplifier to make sure that everything is measuring okay, because once I start installing those bigger caps here, it's going to get in the way and make it really difficult to swap any parts if I need to in this region. So they all tested basically fine. So all these 3-band resistors you see here, most of the amp has 3-band resistors. As far as I understand, those are 20% tolerance. And then you've got gold band, that's 5%, silver band, if they're 4-band resistors, the final band there is a tolerance, and silver would be 10%. Very typically you would see in Fenders and Marshalls and Voxes and whatever else. So everything tested basically fine as far as I could tell, with the exception of this 100K here, which is going off of the can filter cap, and this measured in the 2.2 meg range. So that one's completely gone, but everything else seemed fine. So basically, we just need to replace this one, which is kind of perfect timing because we need to remove it anyways, and move the connection up here to this terminal strip that we have installed. And and then as far as ground connections are concerned, I did clean out this eyelet here so I can fit all of them if I want, but I do have other options. I can go here, or I discussed maybe even going over there. We'll just kind of figure that out as we go. But first things first, we're just going to go ahead and remove and kind of be systematic about taking disconnecting parts from the can cap here, moving over so we don't get anything confused. And we'll start with the square, which is this one right here. We'll start by removing this 100K, which is now measuring 2.2 meg or so. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here's the resistor taken out. Let's go ahead and confirm what it measured. Brown, black, yellow, which should be 100K, and it's reading 2.9 meg. So yeah, that one's completely gone. But no big deal. We've got plenty of replacements there, so we'll just put that off to the side for now. And I just kind of cut off the lead there, but was able to remove it from the pin because it wasn't looped around like every other one. So that will be the easiest one to remove probably tonight. Alrighty, now we've got 2 orange leads there that we need to move over to here. And one of them should be able to connect here, no problem. But the other one, which goes all the way over here, I don't know if you can see it on camera or not. It's one of these 2 orange ones here. That one's definitely going to need an extension added onto it because it's just not going to be long enough. So let's go ahead and I'll probably just cut them just to make it easy, connect the one, and then we'll add an extension. I don't know if I have orange wire on hand. I might. And we'll just go ahead and heat shrink on a connection and run it over here. So let's do that now. I think this is solid core. Yeah, this is solid core. So we don't get confused, I'll just kind of temporarily put it there, and then we got one more to cut down there. There that is, and obviously not long enough, but I don't have any orange, unfortunately, but I do have red, and it's very similar. So we will go ahead and cut that, J-hook, heat shrink, get the extension on there. Get a nice J-hook on there. Make sure it's super solid, not going anywhere. That looks good. Let's go ahead and solder those 2 together. Any excuse, get the heat gun out, I'm happy. All right, now we just got to get the 68K resistors there, and we'll be bridging from one to there and one to there. Now, I'm not going to be able to unhook these, so I'm going to try and reuse them because they measured fine. But I'm going to have to cut it and see if I can make it work. I kind of dig that, actually. Something about that. That's kind of cool. All right, I think we'll do that. So we don't need to solder anything yet. We'll just kind of mock everything up before we start soldering. And then these will go down onto the lower lower eyelets. So square is 20. So this one's this vertical pair of eyelets is the 20 microfarad. Triangle is the 10, and then the no marking is the 5. But these are both going to be 8 microfarad because that's what I've got. So we got 28, 8, and we just got to make sure the wires are correct here. All right, we've got everything mocked up here. So now I think we can go ahead, solder these in, and then we'll or at least get these all mechanically connected, and then we can focus on the caps on the upper tier here. Again, I don't know if you guys are able to see this or not. Maybe you can see it like that. Let me change the focus. So again, it's got it's almost like a, if you guys have ever seen a drag strip where they've got the 2 sets of lights, the starting lights, and it's got they call it the tree, basically. So you got lights on either side. It's the same thing, it's just got eyelets on either side. And it sticks out this way so that I was able to fit it. It actually works out pretty well. So this top one will have the caps, and the bottom one will have all of the wires, and the middle will have the resistors. Which I think I will try and solder in now. Just kind of want to see what happens. Get out my bigger gauge of solder here. This is, let's see, what was it? 1.5 mil, 0.062. The other one I was using is 0.8 mil, 0.031 inches. It's basically half. Quite a bit thicker. And I think it might be better for getting this. We'll see. This really feels like it fits all the rest of the work in the amp, which is why I love it. It's, again, probably not the most elegant, most perfect way to do things, but I do feel like it fits the amp well. And with that, we can move on to the caps, which will just kind of further solidify that that fact. Let's not forget, I almost forgot, there's 100K I need to install. So we reuse the shielding from the old resistor here, just so we're not going to worry about hitting there and shorting that out, or jumpering that on accident. So we're good to go there, and then it's just going right up to this eyelet, which is where we can go back now to the 20 microfarad capacitor here. And we got to find a ground for this. And like I was saying before, there's no real area to ground it. Like here, I'd have to fold it over completely on itself, which I guess is possible. But, man, I'm not sure about that. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Is that a viable move, really? I genuinely don't know. We're just in the mock-up phase here. Let's just see what this looks like. Yeah, it's just not possible. So I think for these ones, we'll have to go to a bit more of an exotic ground, such as down here. I could conceivably do this one here. And just have one that's way off to the side. It's so crazy. I know it's not great. But I think that might be the move. Because you're just in the way of the least number of things. I think another option would be, I don't want to ground on the can cap. I don't want to be reliant on that. I mean, this is a solid ground, so I think this will be fine. We did that. Something like that, and then this one is just kind of no man's land. But it's just too small of an area. I couldn't wrap this around there. I don't really like the idea of tying the ground of these two together. Because I know some people would. They would probably just put this one here and then tie this ground directly to here. Not dissimilar to what they've done to the resistors, like there and there. But if you have to replace one of the capacitors, I don't know, I don't really love the idea of them being tied together like that. And it's not completely intrusive having one down there. So we're going to just do that. We're going to move forward. We're not going to overthink it. All right. And just like that, folks, we are done with the major capacitors here. So we can cap replaced. We've got the 5, 10, and 20 replaced with an 8, 8, and a 20. We've retained the original 68K resistors there, and then we moved all of the wires and added in an extension lead there to make all of the connections onto this terminal strip. And this will be fine closing or laying this on top. Nothing is touching. You guys can't see from the plane you're on, but that should show that everything is below the plane there and out of the way, and we didn't cover up too much in the way of the original resistors or anything. And no worries about any, positive leads touching anything since they're so short here. We do have one long ground lead there, but there's nothing in danger over there. And there's still plenty of room to get to stuff elsewhere. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then obviously we did all of these other ones down here, which was a pain, but we got it done. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end here tonight. And tomorrow, we'll go ahead and figure out what's going on over here because there's some serious shenanigans going on. And I'll show you guys in more detail later. And then, yeah, we'll fix that up, and then we'll finally be able to turn it on and see what's what. So, but we're going to go ahead and end here for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you liked the video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. And until next time, see ya.